So we're getting set up there. Looks like we're live there. And looks like we are live on Instagram as well. So, all right. Hey, welcome everybody. It is Friday, April 24th, and we are here for our April FinCrime Friday chat. And as usual, I am joined by Aaron O'Loughlin, ACFCS's Senior Director of Training, and Brian Svoboda-Kendall, ACFCS's VP of Product and Programming. I am your host, Clayton Norman. I am the Social Media Marketing Manager for Serify, which is the parent company for ACFCS. We've got a great conversation for you today. We're going to be talking about AI in 2026 and how it's impacting the work that we do as FinCrime professionals and also the job market for our work. Because obviously large learning models and other generative AI tools are changing the landscape, and there is a lot to dig into. Before we get started, as usual, please drop in the comments. Let us know where you are joining from. We love to see all of those towns and places coming in from across the globe and really reaffirming how incredible and global the ACFCS community is. So drop that in the comments. Also, as we're going, we want to hear from you. So throughout, if you have questions, if you have comments or insights that you want to share, drop those in the comments and we will try to get to as many of those as we can and answer them on air. And if we are not able to answer them on air, then we will answer them in the comments. So keep an eye out there, share what you're thinking about. We want to hear how you're using AI in your work, or how you see AI impacting hiring and other aspects of your work today. So share those thoughts with us. And just as a reminder, all right, Suffolk, Virginia, love to see that. Kathy, it's great to see you. And Moline, Illinois, Susan, Myra from Muscatine, Iowa. Oh man, they are just pouring in. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. Just a reminder though, if you're not an ACFCS member, today is a great time to fix that problem. Head to acfcs.org to become a member. It gets you access to hundreds of hours of training, exclusive events, as well as an incredible network of like-minded professionals in the FinCrime and compliance space. So with that, let's jump right into it. Here's the deal. AI is no longer an emerging risk. It is now fully embedded into the financial crime ecosystem, from deepfake, fraud, and automated scams to AI-powered compliance tools and potentially even new job roles for the people viewing this conversation today. Both compliance and compliance professionals are starting to use AI at scale. So we've got a few headlines to discuss. We're going to jump right into that. This first one comes from the Washington Post. How scammers are using AI deepfakes to steal money from taxpayers. AI-generated voices are being used to impersonate IRS officials and steal money and personal data, contributing to billions in fraud losses and making scams more convincing and scalable. So Aaron, I know that you had some notes about this one. What's your take on this story?
My take is the robots and the tech in general has overtaken everything. Skynet is here. And I, for one, welcome our robot overlords and hope their reign is a fruitful one. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. Not all is lost. So I wanted to start that way to say, if you're not laughing, then you might be crying. We don't want to cry. But this one is a little terrifying. I got to admit, this has been happening for a while. The AI deepfakes, they've been around for a bit. This one puts it really into perspective. When I was reading the article, a video also popped up. And in the video, it happened to be in Channel News 7 San Diego local anchor who it just started playing. And I watched the video, and this woman was talking to a tech expert who does this work, the AI deepfakes and those types of things. And he had her standing there, and he recorded just a tiny bit of her voice, not hardly anything. And then what he did was take a bit of that recording and then created a whole new script with it. And then he was able to actually then take that, not just the script, but what the voice recording that she had, he created a whole new script read the script out in his voice, and then it translated into her voice sound. So that part was terrifying, and it sounded just like her, and they showed it. So I did a little bit more digging to say, wow, I mean, should we not even have our outgoing messages on our voicemails to say this is so and so, leave a message? I've been reading we shouldn't be doing that. We should let our voicemails go straight to the automated, you've reached number, yada, yada, yada. Might be a good tip and trick to take away. I also did a little more digging on this in general. The government impersonation scams, the numbers of complaints for scammers posing as government officials like the IRS and others around the world, but I believe in the United States, nearly doubled between 2024 and 2025, rising from roughly 17,300 to nearly 32,500 in 1 year. So the total financial losses on this from government impersonation scams alone reached almost $797 million in 2025. That's terrifying. That's the terrifying part. And people, they find themselves afraid. Of course, I would be too. It sounds real. It sounds like they're going to come after me. It sounds like they're going to arrest me. It sounds like I need to do what they're telling me to do. I don't blame these people for falling for this. It is something that people realize they're pulling on these emotional strings to do that. And the AI specific fraud, for the first time, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3, we call it, tracked AI as a dedicated category. I thought that was very interesting too, to learn from this article, reporting over 22,000 complaints and nearly $893 million in losses for 2025. Start off Friday strong, guys.
Wow, that is terrifying, also kind of fascinating too. It's just really amazing. Also, anybody who wants to dig more into the IC3 findings, that is going to be our topic for next month's FinCrime Friday chat. We're really going to do a deep dive into that. So if that's something that you're interested in, there is a ton of incredible information in there. Make sure that you mark your calendars. That is going to be for May 27th when we do our next FinCrime Friday chat, the final Friday of May. So just a heads up that that's what we're going to be jumping into next month. Okay, Brian, second headline, Google uses AI to fight surge in AI-powered scams. This one's from AP News. As AI-generated scam ads explode, Google is deploying its own AI tools to block billions of fraudulent ads and suspend millions of scam-linked accounts, showing the arms race between attackers and defenders. So I don't know. This one seems really interesting. I like the arms race analogy. Brian, what's your analysis?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. And we've talked before, I think more theoretically on these LinkedIn live sessions about AI versus AI as sort of the new frontier of combat in this space, right? But it's really here, you know, robots fighting robots is a reality for a lot of sectors, and it's playing out in the financial services and compliance industry too, as we bring on more, you know, agents and bots and that type of thing to combat all the fake agents and bots that are attacking you and onboarding or whatever the case may be. I think it's encouraging that Google is doing this because, you know, we're going to talk among other topics about like the scam ecosystem and the way it's supercharged by AI. And the tech platforms, including the ad platforms, are a huge part of that picture. You know, they're a way that users get served fake job scams, you know, romance scams, investment scams. A lot of those initiate from ads, either on Instagram, Facebook, or just Google searches. You know, fraudulent scam websites have been a huge part of the problem, and advertisements driving people to fraudulent scam websites. Just today, I was reading an article about an OFAC takedown where they seized 503 domain names tied to pig butchering scams operating out of Southeast Asia. And those advertise, and the victims are directed to these sites via ads in some cases. So, you know, you don't necessarily think of advertising as a financial crime issue, but it totally is. And I know that Google does some good work, and others have tried to step up to the plate to do it. There is a perverse incentive, like other areas. A lot of these companies make a lot of money off ads for not just fraud, but counterfeit goods, you know, illegal goods, etc. They're massive amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars. So there's this push-pull, and they don't have the same level of regulation, that many of you do out there in the financial services space. So there's this push-pull within the tech industry more broadly, and particularly the tech industry focused on online ads, on how to tackle this issue. So the fact that Google's stepping up to the plate and applying these AI-driven technologies to rein in on this is an encouraging sign. I think industry-wide, there's a lot more work that needs to be done to combat this. I personally still see ads all the time for like known scams and frauds. I'm interested in the audience out there, how much of this you experience, whether you're seeing it show up in your feed as well. But yeah, a good step, a lot more work to be done.
All right. Okay, third and final headline, AI job scams are booming. This one was in The Guardian. So Aaron, we're going to toss this to you. AI-driven recruitment scams are rapidly increasing, using fake recruiters and hyper-personalized outreach to target job seekers, reflecting how AI is reshaping fraud and the job market itself. Seems extremely cruel to target job seekers, especially the way things are going with the job market right now. Kind of a painful thing to get duped by a fake AI job scam at this point. It's just insult to injury. Seems like to me. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Well, this dovetails right into what the other article we talked about and what Brian was saying about all these ads that are still out there. And a lot of these ads, I've actually seen job ads. It says work from home. That sounds great. But now that I see them, I've been seeing them for years. And now that I see them, I go, nope, don't touch that. The whole work from home ad thing, that should be your number one red flag. No, that's just not a thing anymore. If you don't get it from a reputable recruiter, if you don't get it from a reputable site like what we're on right now, say LinkedIn or Indeed. And again, there's also scammers on there too. So be careful. I'm not trying to add one or support one over another, because there's bad parts and good parts to all these things. But the legitimate companies are LinkedIn's, the Indeeds of the world that have these job postings. I would go to them first, go to the company website first as well. This article particularly was from The Guardian, so it came out of the UK. And an interesting part in the article itself, it talked about something called the report fraud. It's UK's national cybercrime reporting service. It said it received more than twice as many reports of recruitment scams in 24 compared to 22. So the first article we talked about, increase in scams in general. Second, that Google and others are fighting them with other bots, which is great. And then now job scams are through the roof as well. And Lloyd's Banking Group reported a 237% rise in job scams from January to August, just of last year. That's not even, that's just January to August. That's just 8 months last year. And more than 10,000 of its customers fell victim, according to Monzo, a company there, to such scams in 2025. That's real tough. We have to really, like Anchorman says, Ron Burgundy, keep your head on a swivel. You got to be very cautious what you're clicking on and looking at and all that good stuff. It's tough out there.
Wow. Yeah. Got to stay vigilant, right? Also, I love the reporting piece, because help out your peers in our industry, right? If you're seeing fake job ads, help people out, flag those so that other people might avoid, getting caught up in that. Julia, see your comment there. That second article was from AP News, and we will drop the link to that in the comments in a little bit, so you can check that out. So, all right. Thank you, Aaron and Brian. I think those are really great segues into our larger conversation about how AI is impacting financial crime and the job market. So, the headlines clearly highlight, the shift that AI is at the same time scaling financial crime, but also redefining the ways that we're fighting it, right? AI fraud losses and cyber-enabled scams are accelerating globally, with fraud increasingly automated, personalized, and cross-channel, just like we discussed. AI fraud's become a global industrialized problem, with an estimated losses exceeding 400 billion annually. And at the same time, institutions are deploying AI for real-time monitoring, behavioral analytics, and fraud detection, creating new demand for hybrid technical investigative skills. The result, financial crime professionals are now operating in an environment where AI literacy is really not optional anymore. It is a foundational aspect to the work that we're doing today. So as we go into this conversation and go through some of these questions for our experts, we want to hear from you. So please share in the comments your experience, either using AI in your work, identifying AI that might be helping to proliferate scams, or ways that you're seeing AI reflected in hiring and the job market. We would love to hear from you. And if you are using it, definitely want to hear your insights. So, Brian, we're going to start off with you. How has AI fundamentally changed the financial crime landscape, really in just the past 2 to 3 years?
A nice small answer with a succinct response, or a small question with a succinct response I can get right. No, I mean, this question is going to set up a bunch of the following questions we're going to get into. So I'll give a bit of a high level picture. And I was reading an article about if anybody does not check out, follow Frank McKenna and check out Frank on Fraud, and you're in the fraud space, I would recommend you rectify that. It's one of the best blogs and reporting in the industry. He's a great speaker and expert, and I was just reading an article on Frank on Fraud regarding somebody who exposed a deepfake scammer using a very simple test. It's getting harder and harder to detect the face swapping deepfakes. Mm-hmm. But one of the ways that this guy in the article did it was the 3-finger test. Asked them to hold up 3 fingers in front of their face. So, I'm not a deepfake, because if you do, it messes with the face swapping. It starts to distort and blur around the edges of the finger, and you can tell. So in the spirit of the 3-finger test, I'll give 3 responses I'll give a 3-part response to this, and I'll focus mostly on how it's being used in committing financial crime. But I think all of these applications, I would love to hear from the audience. I think all of these applications apply pretty much to detection and prevention. And one of the big ones that I don't think necessarily gets quite as much attention as it should is that it has removed the language barrier. The translation on AI is really good these days. And when you are operating particularly from outside of a jurisdiction and targeting individuals in a jurisdiction, being able to speak fluently in their language and even, use idioms or sound like you're from a specific area. If you've cultivated a persona, you can train AI to sound like they're from a specific area. That capability is there, and it's being used on the fraud side. And it's playing out in pig butchering big time. Pig butchering was very heavily concentrated in the major global languages, right? Cantonese, Mandarin, English. Why? Because that's what they had the scripts in. It was being done by people who had scripts, and those languages were the ones where the scripts, the fraudsters had the scripts translated. They've since translated the scripts into, Dutch, Spanish, all variations of Spanish, and Latin American Spanish, all the Asian languages, etc., using high quality translation from AI. So it's allowed it to go global, and this has played out really in the past 2 or 3 years, Clayton, to your question. It's allowed it to go global in a way that, impacts all sorts of scams. Pig butchering is just one example. Job scams, as we talked about before, or impersonation scams. There's compounds in Cambodia where they have every single law enforcement office set up, and it's not the actual law enforcement, it's scammers who are changing their uniform from the FBI to the Australian National Police to the Hong Kong Police Service to Metropolitan Police in the UK, right? And they're going around and they're doing these police impersonation scams in studios built behind them, and they're using AI for translation and language purposes, right? As well as deepfakes and other technology. So I think that translation capability has been really impactful in both personalizing the schemes and allowing them to go more global. I think it can be really useful on the compliance side too. I think for investigations, and we're going to talk about investigating in other languages on a session coming up, I think in FinCrime Virtual Week. The ability to translate, the ability to have high quality translation. Gary Warner was talking about it in his session at FinCrime Skills Summit. He does a ton of research in Chinese language fraud forums, and he does not fluently speak Chinese. He uses Google Gemini extensively for translation, and over time, it's been able to start to interpret the nuances of these fraud forums that use a lot of slang, a lot of idioms, a lot of euphemisms, and it's been able to pick it up and provide high quality translation for an investigation in a language that he doesn't really speak, right? And I think other investigators are using that capability too. So I would highlight the language, the ability to operate in different languages as actually a really impactful one in the AI space. The other one is just, I think, obvious for anybody that's using it, on their job, is just speed, the speed with which you can operate at this point. It's true on fraudsters. It's true for fraudsters. It's true for compliance professionals in terms of a lot of the work where AI is being applied, right? So, gathering documentation, right? Going out and gathering bits and pieces of documentation on a customer to collect it all in one place. Those like basic research functions, the old swivel chair automation we used to refer to, for compliance professionals, where you're pulling this, pulling that, just trying to get it all together so you can start your investigation, right? That can be done so much faster, and then that's been maybe longer than 2 or 3 years, but I think it's gotten better. It's gotten more trustworthy. It's less prone to make things up at this point. So the speed on the compliance side, I think, is making a real impact, both for a lot of positives, but also some negatives in terms of job impact, hiring, the ability to find entry-level positions. We've heard increasing noise that it's getting more and more difficult out there. And then the last one I would highlight is, and it plays into the language capability thing, is the personalization. And this is really true more so on the commission of financial crime side than the compliance side, but the ability to craft personalized messaging attacks, conduct research on individuals that's really targeted. That job scams piece we talked about was discussing a recruiting scam where they were impersonating recruiters, and they were using information scraped off LinkedIn on individuals to say, oh, we have this incredible opportunity for you, right? And it was just pulling your LinkedIn profile and using AI to create a job opportunity that was exactly tailored to your experience and professional background. You're way more likely to be like, oh my God, that's amazing. I got to take that job than just some, random like transaction processing specialist job, or, how it was in the past, right? So that personalization and the ability to, that personalization combines with everything else. Personalization plus speed plus language capability, right? That's very powerful tools in a fraudster's toolkit. And again, I think some of those applications splash onto our industry too. But I'll pause there, and we can pull those threads a little further.
Okay, I think that's a great place to start. Also, already seeing some great comments from in the comments there. Kathy says our TMS has really started engaging with AI opportunities, still testing to see the output and if it's productive. I think that's great. I think probably most institutions are probably at least sticking a toe in the water there. And then Elnathan, I believe it's become delusional to tackle financial crimes nowadays with a lot of profound and efficient use of AI. Elnathan, if you want to elaborate on that in the comments a little bit more and let us know how you're actually using that there, I think that would be a great part of the discussion. I also have one more, and I want to get to Aaron's question, but this is something else that maybe we can address. Can you please focus on AI in ATO? So put a pin in that one. Aaron, what are the most common and most concerning, I guess, what are the most concerning AI-enabled fraud typologies? Deepfakes, synthetic IDs, scam automation, or something else that's not on that list?
Well, for me, I think it's deepfakes, because they kind of hit at the heart of us. It's trust. It attacks trust itself. It's telling it. don't believe your lying eyes, or believe your lying eyes. One of the two. You don't even know what's up or down anymore, and that's the part that's really disconcerting to me. They can fake the voice, they fake the face, the video call. It all feels like verification, and that's the part that you feel like you've been violated as a person, and that's the part that is the most concerning to me when it comes to the typology, the deepfake itself. And even FinCEN has warned about, back in November 2024, I think it was. FinCEN warned that suspicious activity involving deepfakes, the deepfake media, I should say, it increased from 23 to 24 and continued through 24. And it also has put out press releases, well, it, meaning FinCEN, have put out press releases to say, hey, can you also put in the term Fin-2024-deepfake fraud in the SAR field 2 in the narrative. So I just wanted to remind folks about that one, because when FinCEN starts saying things like, please click this new box we have, please put this word in the narrative as well, you know that they're really needing that kind of information from you. And it's super important because it's so on the rise. And for me, it's deepfake.
All right.
Also, I'd like to tackle that. Well, I don't know if I'm tackling it. The ATO one.
Yes.
I really love that question, because way back in 2000, when did I come in? 2000 into the AML world, fraud first, within AML world around 2014. That was the biggest thing at Bank of America that I was taught. First and foremost was account takeover. It's one of the hardest problems in the financial industry, especially when you come to compliance investigations. It was so tough for me to understand. And I started realizing this is a technical issue. It's someone coming in through whatever backdoor channel they have that they know about, have been able to get in through their phishing scam, have been able to get in through maybe business email compromise, got a password from a website that you used on your computer. Those sorts of things I had no clue about when I came into the financial industry. And people can get in that way into your mobile online banking. So ATO is one of the biggest problems that face the financial industry, especially in compliance, to say these folks have lost money, didn't even know it. They didn't click on anything to say, yes, I'll give money to a Nigerian prince. They didn't take a phone call and say, yes, that's my son or granddaughter that's stuck in another country, even though they're living 4 miles down the road. They didn't do anything actively. They didn't fall in love with someone online. They're just going about their day. And that's the part that terrifies me the most as well, outside of deepfake, which is the account takeover. And there's AI is still using these types of things. They're just making it more personalized from what I was reading. And they enable the deepfake synthetic identity artifacts to defeat authentication. Eek, that's rough. Because now you're getting criminals who they scale the attacks through malware, and then they're telling the bank, yes, I am the person and I am verifying. So you're not just slipping in, acting like the person on the same kind of rails that they use with their behavioral aspects. They'll know your customer, the cash transactions in and out, what's normal for that account. Now you're telling the bank, not only am I doing this without the customer knowing, I'm now authenticating when they're looking back. And that is also terrifying.
Yeah, especially the fact that you can do absolutely nothing wrong, have made no mistakes, no missteps, didn't click on the phishing email, didn't let your data leak out in some way, and you just look into your account and stuff is going crazy.
And that's why it's so important for compliance investigators in FIs, all FIs, and MSBs, crypto, anybody. You are a regulated entity and you're writing a suspicious activity report or suspicious transaction report overseas and submitting it to your FIU. Please put the known IP address that you've got. It may be a VPN, sure, but that's still a little tiny piece of the intel puzzle that regulators and law enforcement need to see and hear and look at. You can even see through the experts in your FI that do these hacking, the pen testers, the digital forensics groups that your company has. You can even bounce it off them and say, does this look like a VPN? Is there any way to get the date timestamp on this device that was used to move these transactions? Those types of handshakes that you have and conversations you can have within groups inside your FI is so pivotal. I did that at Bank of America and learned a ton, because I would go, my investigator mindset, my investigator stomach was crawling sometimes, going, there's something here and you don't know what it is. Don't let it go. There's something here. You're not smart enough to know what's here. And so I would go and ask the folks that are smart enough to say, I have this piece of the puzzle. Do you guys have that piece? And they would. And I'd learn so much more. And then we'd give what pieces of the puzzle we had to let the regulators finish it. And that's the part that I really cannot stress enough, to say, yes, it's AI, yes, it's ATO. You may not know fully, completely, but here are the pieces of our puzzles, and this is all we have, regulators and law enforcement, to help protect our customers.
I think that's really important. And it reminds me of somebody, I can't remember who it was, in one of our State Your Case podcasts, who talked about keep pulling on the string, right? Stay curious. Whenever your intuition, investigator's intuition starts to, your spidey senses start to go off, don't give up on it. Keep asking questions, keep pushing, keep pulling on the string, and you never know what might unravel if you keep doing that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Brian, next one over to you. Let's talk about how criminals are using AI to scale operations, oftentimes faster than the traditional compliance controls are able to keep up.
Yeah, I think it's done a couple of things. Well, it's done a bunch of stuff that we already talked about, right, in terms of language capabilities and that. But to expand on that even further, and I think account takeover is actually a great example. Some account takeover attacks are driven by credential stuffing, right? People reuse passwords, and we still do it, even though we've all been told not to a million times. Those passwords are out there. I regret to inform you, your passwords have been breached if you are not aware. And if you're reusing passwords or you're reusing variations of passwords, you're opening yourself up to account takeover, which frankly almost everyone is, right? It used to be harder to use those data sets, right? You had to manually compare them or try to dump them all into an Excel file. But now AI is really good at analyzing those data sets and pairing everything up, right? Commercially available tools can help you with this. Don't go do it, right? But you can find all this breach data. Some of it's freely available. They like post breach data to GitHub or all these other sites, or it's available on the dark web. It's not hard to find, sometimes like hundreds of thousands or millions of records out there. And those records may not be complete, but they build up over time. There was a breach of 1 billion records at one point, 1 billion records from I think it was one of the credit reporting agencies, right? And there's not even 1 billion people in the U.S., but there's a ton of dead people in there. So there, like the information is out there, and now you can tie it all together using AI, and you can connect the dots and build a much more complete data profile on an individual than you could in the past very quickly. Why is that useful? Well, if you want to do a credential stuffing attack, now you have complete data sets, including password data, sometimes multiple passwords on Clayton Norman, and you can just go to what you know to be Clayton's banks or past institutions, or maybe you don't even know. You just go to the online login page and you bang a bunch of credentials in. And this is all automated too. You're not sitting there typing this out yourself. You're running a script that's taking the data from your data set and just trying to jam it through as many financial institutions' logins as possible, and trying out every password, variations on password, combinations of passwords. And you can do all of this very quickly on a very automated scale. And it's taking place right now. So that ability to automate and build those types of attacks by harnessing the data sets that are out there and have been out there and are nourished and built up over time is a really powerful application of AI. The other thing that I'll highlight is the fact that, especially now, with like the coding tools available to you, there is almost no barrier to entry for cyber criminals, including like quote unquote traditional hacking attacks. There was a really interesting analysis by Amazon of an attacker that got, a lot of what we call hacking is like social engineering. I'm just convincing you that I'm, your brother and you need to grant me access to your accounts or whatever. But this was more traditional hacking in terms of finding a vulnerability in a cybersecurity control, a firewall, a code issue, and getting through it and getting access to accounts that the hacker was not supposed to. And the person behind this did not have any coding skills. They did not have any hacking skills. They just used two tools. They used DeepSeek and Claude's Anthropic coding tool. And they bounced between those tools and they were asked them questions just in plain language, no technical stuff. They did not know enough information to write out technical questions. And by doing this, they were able to hack in to these systems. So the barrier to entry to committing, traditional social engineering style fraud is low, but the barrier to entry to code and to build out applications that assist you with fraud schemes, or troubleshoot applications that you are running in fraud schemes, is also gone at this point. There's just no barrier to entry across the board. That's really encouraging when we get to the good side of this conversation of like, what can we do? We'll talk about like Learn AI and whatever. Well, Learn AI, yes, there's courses out there. There's some good ones. Google has one. LinkedIn actually has a good course that I'm going through on like Intro to AI. It's free. But you can just go do stuff. All of this stuff is freely available, right? And I would encourage you to just go do stuff. See what you can create using AI. It's really, I don't want to say it's easy per se, because it definitely takes some work to figure out what to use, how to use, etc. But again, the user experience is intensively designed to be accessible, right? That's the whole point of these AI chatbots. They produce what you ask them using written language. So it's not something that you need any level of technical skill to access and to utilize. Is the whole point of them, which is being used by our adversaries, but can also be used for you. So, in terms of two more of the big fundamental shifts over the last 3 years, those are what I would point to. The barrier to entry and the ability to automate. And I see a question that says, is it fair to say AI use and fraud seems to be primarily focused around social engineering, or are we seeing it in other avenues? Yeah, yes and no. There's a lot, like, to the point of like research and analysis. There's a lot of research and analysis work, like taking those breach data sets and using them for different things. There's a lot of coding of malware taking place using AI, or building of malware as a service tools, fraud as a service tools. There's even, just like we have, on the legitimate business side, there's even like AI chatbots to support people who buy fraud as a service tools to troubleshoot them, right? You go on these like Telegram fraud forums, and there's like AI chatbots that can help you find what you need. Maybe you're looking for like money mules, or any manner of illicit goods and services you might want. You need your AI chatbot to assist you. So I would say that it's pretty broad based, right? Like, financial criminals don't invent stuff, right? They don't invent stuff. They just use what's out there. So whatever's being done in the practical, in the good guy world, right, the legitimate business world, they're just twisting it and turning it to malicious ends. So I don't know that I would say it's primarily social engineering. I think it's broader.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Brian, because I see social engineering as one prong on that fork, or how you call it, tine on the fork. There's several of them, and I actually see it kind of what you just said, being used less. So social engineering was the big thing to do for folks sitting in, say, a compound, that are stuck in those scam compounds. They've got to learn information about what you've just posted on Facebook, and then pull that from something on LinkedIn, and get those two things together and really do the analysis from the human side. And I actually see that kind of less, because tech/AI is actually taking over that part of the job for it. But yes, I think it's a part of it. I don't think that part's going to go away either. Also, another thing I wanted to just remind folks, because I forgot to do this in the beginning, when I talked about that first article and the video that jumped up, which was the Channel 7 local San Diego video that popped up, and that the anchor was standing there, the reporter was standing there with the tech person. The second part of it was, she took the video, she had it on her phone, and she actually went home and put the phone in front of her husband, and she played the video, or she played the recording, and her husband looks down at it, and he looks over her and he goes, "That sounds like you." And the look on his face said, because it was just a little small clip, look on his face said, "That's not you, that's you." Almost like, "Why are you asking me this question?" And then it cuts to her in the studio talking to her co-anchors, and they're saying, well, this is terrifying, yada, yada, yada. And then they gave some really good tips. They said things like, if you get something like that, or if you feel like, hey, my wife just called, my husband just called me, and they're asking for the PIN because they're standing at the bank, that's not something that they would ask, because that was a question that was asked. Then you should always set something up like a code. You should ask the question of, oh, yeah, okay, so I was just, before I get that, I was just looking at our calendar for our anniversary. Can you remind me what our anniversary is again? It's something they wouldn't know. Those types of things. Having a daughter, she's a teenager now, but when she was first born, she first started going to school, elementary school. We were, obviously, I'm a very nervous Nelly mother, and I was very terrified that someone would just walk up and say to the pretty little blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl, your mom said that I need to take you, there's an emergency, and then put her in the car and kidnap her. I've always been scared of that. So we had her say, if there's anybody that she doesn't know, or even the friends that she does know, the adult friends that she does know, they have our password. She is to ask them, oh, what's the code word? And they know to say that one word back to her. And then that's her safety word, and she can go with them, because we only need to use it once, and we've never had to use it for anybody that she didn't know. But that is another tip and trick I like to give. So in that vein, protect the children so that they're not taken away. And in another vein, pick some kind of safe word, safe term, or something like that you can verify. Like Brian said, the 3 fingers for the deep fake video. Ask the question that only you and that person would know. That's another tip to take away.
Brilliant advice, and a good reminder. Probably need to update my family security password now for my kids. Okay, so Aaron, since you're already speaking, Brian talked about how criminals are using AI. Let's put you on the flip side of it, and how are FIs using and individual investigators using AI to help improve detection and prevention?
From what I'm hearing, it's a lot in speed and behavioral analytics. So the analytics for, as the LinkedIn user talked about, wanting to talk about the ATO, the account takeover detection, the behavioral changes, the device changes, unusual transfer activity, the risk. Well, we are a risk-based industry. Everything is risk-based. For the authentication, risk-based authentication, instead of treating every login the same, AI can help decide when to step up for authentication. That's a good example. Deep fake and synthetic document detection, that's possible. FinCrime even actually recommended measures to try and use AI to re-review accounts and reopening of documents, reverse image searches, that sort of thing. Obviously, the same traditional types of things we're going to be using: transaction monitoring, the anomaly detection, threat intelligence, especially compromised credential detection. Because if you have a compromised credential, that's more than likely to lead to an ATO. That's usually what happens. Compromised credentials are something, that password that you used for another website, say to get into the Washington Post, or to get into anything that requires a password. That's a compromised credential. And that credential then is used also in your online banking. Guess what? Compromised. They use it there, they're in, sort of thing. And then fraud case triage, and especially investigation support, I think, is another big one for AI to be used. And of course, I've spent the last couple of years trying to be scared of it, to go, oh gosh, it's going to take our jobs. I mean, Block laid off 4,000 people, Crypto.com laid off 12%. But from what I heard from Crypto, that didn't touch the client's organization. So that's really good, at least in terms of we're striking a good balance, because it's going to have to happen. It's happening in our financial industry, which is terrifying. There might be some companies out there that say we need our compliance folks. That's for darn sure. So there is positivity, at least in this, or I should say hope for all of this that's coming about.
And I think that's a really good segue into this question from Kathy, who asks, how do we balance AI efficiency with human judgment and regulatory accountability, right? Because Aaron, to your point, there's some inevitability baked into, the proliferation and use of these tools, but totally removing the human component seems problematic at least, and very, could be hazardous at worst. So I don't know, either you or Brian, thoughts on, that sort of combining the AI efficiency and still retaining that human judgment?
It's a hard one because it's such a huge umbrella question because it's good. I'm going to use the one I had to have in intelligence. It depends because it depends on what you're looking at, depends on what you're working on, depends on the tools that you're using. There's a lot that depends on it. But I like the question. I think we'll learn more about it as the months, I was about to say years go by, but nope, it's moving so fast. As the months go by, we're going to learn more how to balance that AI efficiency more. What are your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, right? Like where we've seen AI move the fastest in terms of, I think, real world application, like just putting things into production, is in the software space, right? The coding space has been, I think, the biggest disruption. Um, software might have an impact on regulations, but generally it's not the same type of highly regulated space as we're in. Um, and so I don't think there's been the same rush to deploy AI in our sector, which I think is a good thing. I think it allows us hopefully to do it a little bit more deliberately and thoughtfully. I think, and also see what's happening with everybody else and learn from their mistakes, right? And I think the question kind of has a couple of different parts. One is, the human judgment, the human in the loop, or sometimes we've referred to it here as the expert in the loop. You can have a human in the loop, but if they don't know enough to be effective, then it doesn't necessarily do you that much good, right? So you need someone with some level of expertise in the loop, reviewing what AI is producing or having some level of oversight. Hallucinations are still a very real problem. Anywhere from 5 to sometimes 30% of AI content has some level of hallucination in it, depending on what model you're using and what it's generating. So you have to be really careful, especially in an industry where you can't, just get things wrong, right, or fix it later. The other aspect of the question, I think, points to an issue that is already playing out in the coding and software development space, which they call AI brain fry, which is not AI making you dumb, although that's another issue. It's attempting to oversee AI that works faster than the human brain can work. If you're running a bunch of AI agents doing a bunch of coding or producing a bunch of applications, they're going to move much faster than you can. They still need that review and oversight and direction. They can't really operate without it at the end of the day because they're producing a product at the direction of a human being, but they're moving much faster than you can follow them. And it's sometimes hard, especially as we move to an agentic AI, future where AI agents are operating in collaboration with one another. It's sometimes hard for humans to even tell what's going on in that situation. That's not really, I don't have any answer to this question. I just want to flag that as a really interesting topic that I think is going to become increasingly relevant as AI agents get deployed more in the financial crime space. But I don't think we're there yet, and I don't think regulators, from what I hear, bank examiners, at least in the US, that's primarily what I'm familiar with, are, there's a lot of positive talk among like the acting director of the OCC and FinCEN and others saying encouraging innovation, responsible innovation is always the buzzword, but encouraging innovation, how much that's trickled down to examiners is very much an open question. I think from what we hear, a lot of examiners still don't feel comfortable or knowledgeable about AI applications themselves. They don't know what or how to review at the institution. And so they are not going to necessarily, encourage it, certainly, or be asking institutions about their AI deployments, except in some maybe limited circumstances or larger institutions that already have that really running and up and running. So obviously it's a mixed bag. Bank examiners are not a monolith, and there's state examiners and all sorts of examiners, right? But I think that level for, the regulatory accountability piece, I think regulators themselves have a lot of catch up to do in terms of learning about this tech and feeling comfortable with it in order to get there.
All right. Great response. Great questions. Thank you, Kathy. Also, Kathy just added, we never want to lose the human touch, but machine learning is still machine. And I think that pretty much sums up the majority of this conversation today. And as usual, we're at time and we barely even, I feel like, scratched the surface of how deep we could go into this topic because it's absolutely fascinating, has very big ramifications, implications for the future of the work that everyone here is doing. But in the interest of time and respecting everybody's time, we're going to go ahead and wrap this conversation up. But I know we've got a couple of really cool upcoming events that I wanted to give everybody a chance to talk about. Erin, can you speak to the human trafficking workshop?
Yes. So May 27th, pull out your calendars now, folks. Write it down. Do yourself a favor. Not me. Do yourself a favor. May 27th, Kevin Metcalf is coming back, and he's going to be helping to run a anti-human trafficking workshop. And you're going to be talking. It's also with Ruth. We're having Ruth on as well, Brian, I think, and Mark. No, Alona Katz. Sorry, Alona Katz and Mark Twombly from KeyBank. Alona Katz is up in New York, and she's in the prosecutor's office. She's amazing, and so is Mark. And they're going to be talking to you about all sorts of things. AHT, anti-human trafficking fundamentals, the typologies and red flags to look out for, investigation best practices, and practitioner and prosecutor perspectives. I know that is a big passion of Kevin's. He is really he's blazing the trail to teach prosecutors how better to prosecute these cases and to help him along the way. That's why ACFCS has joined forces with him, because he's showing prosecutors, here's how you look at the money, and it helps to not have to rely on victims so much. We learn how to best show the prosecutors and show the regulators and other law enforcement how the money is being funneled in and out and through our firms when it comes to the suffering of human beings. They don't have to look at the victims to testify against their abusers. They don't have to do any of these things. It makes it easier for them to actually prosecute these cases. That's such a hard thing to do, according to Kevin. He's saying that they don't have enough education. So let's get the ACFCS Army together to teach these prosecutors. This workshop will help. 11 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, May 27th.
All right. Don't miss that. We put the link there and we'll put it in the comments as well. So if you are checking out the comments, you can just go straight there and register. You do not want to miss that one. Is a critical topic. Okay. And Brian, can you talk a little bit about the Digital Asset Symposium?
Yeah, absolutely. This was previously known as the Crypto and Web3 Compliance Symposium. So we relaunched as the Digital Asset Symposium. The landscape is changing, and so we brought in the name out, right? It's not just crypto, there's other digital assets in the mix. And it's going to be a fantastic event for ACFCS members. If you're an ACFCS member, always free of charge to you. So sign up today. If you're not, hey, join ACFCS, and this event is included along with others as well. So this is going to be a great one-day sprint through the landscape of digital assets and their financial crime risk. We're going to be talking about a lot of topics that have connections to things we discussed here. We're going to be kicking off with Rachel Cartwright, who's a supervisory special agent with the FBI, who played a role in some of the big takedowns and targeting of transnational crypto-based scams operating primarily out of Southeast Asia. We're going to be looking at money laundering in the digital asset space. Erin's going to be having a great conversation with Antonio Alvarez from Crypto.com. We have some great presenters from Kraken. OFAC is going to be joining us again for a look at sanctions evasion in the digital asset space. So it's going to be a fantastic event. We're going to have a lot of fun, as we always do along the way. So really encourage you to join us on May 5th. And then following that event, actually for the first time, we are bringing the digital asset compliance specialization, our DAX specialization course, into a live format. And on the 12th, 13th, 14th, we're going to be running some live sessions for folks who are currently enrolled in DAX to learn from SMEs, join a dialogue, get a review of the content to kickstart their journey on DAX. And if you're not enrolled in DAX, but just want to learn more or get some great training on digital assets in the digital asset world, you can buy a ticket just for the DAX live session. So check that out. It's on the Digital Asset Symposium website, both that event, the main event on the 5th and the follow-up DAX Live, May 12th through 14th.
All right. Those are going to be some incredible events, and we hope to see everyone who is here there at both of those. Really incredible, as usual, an incredible lineup of experts with deep knowledge in the topics that they're going to be covering. Do not miss them. We'll put the links in the comments as well. You can also find all of the information, all of the things that we talked about at acfcs.org and from any of our drop downs there on the main website. You can become a member and you can register for any or all of these events. Thank you so much, everybody, for all of the great conversation. We had really wonderful questions and comments today, and we really appreciate that. It goes to show just how engaged and committed this community of financial crime warriors really are. We appreciate you. Make sure that you save the date for May 27th to join us again for our next FinCrime Friday chat. Again, we're going to be digging into the FBI's IC3 report from 2025. There's just really a bunch of fascinating stuff in there, and we look forward to seeing you there for that. Thanks, Kathy, and thanks everyone who joined us today. Make sure that you guys are checking out the events that we talked about. We will see you next month. Stay vigilant. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.